There has been a renewed wave of Islamophobia in the United States. A recent report from the Center for the Study of Organized Hate shows a sharp rise in anti-Muslim and anti-Arab posts on X since the start of the war with Iran, some of them coming from Republican lawmakers.
Just last week, for example, Florida Congressman Randy Fine wrote, quote, "We need more Islamophobia, not less." And then there was Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville sharing these side-by-side images of Zohran Mamdani, the first Muslim mayor of New York City, and a photo of 9/11, saying, quote, "The enemy is inside the gates."
President Donald Trump also blamed a recent string of violent attacks in the U.S. on the, quote, genetics of the suspects.
They're sick people, and a lot of them were let in here. They shouldn't have been let in. Others are just bad. They go bad. Something wrong. There's something wrong there.
So
the genetics are not exactly, they're not exactly your genetic.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona is following this for us. Melanie, first off, these posts are hard to read. These quotations are hard to hear. They're also causing tensions to flare inside Congress. I mean, back in 2019, then Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy actually removed Iowa Representative Steve King from all committees after he questioned why white supremacy was even considered offensive. So now, fast forward to today, how are Republican leaders responding to these posts?
It is a very different response than what we saw in response to Steve King. Very few, if any, Republicans are condemning these remarks from their colleagues. Some of those statements that you read were blatantly Islamophobic. And in fact, the Republican leadership is largely just brushing aside these comments. Last week at their House retreat in Florida, Speaker Mike Johnson was asked about these members. He said these are words that he wouldn't have personally used, but he did not specifically condemn the remarks. Just take a listen.
Look, I've spoken to those members and all members, as I always do, about our tone and our message and what we say. There's a lot of energy in the country and a lot of popular sentiment that the demand to impose Sharia law in America is a serious problem. That's what animates this, and that's the the language that people use. It's different language than I would use, but I think that that's a serious issue.
And so without the leadership calling for consequences, very unlikely that any rank-and-file Republicans follow suit.
Melanie, the difficult part here is that we know words matter. Some Democrats are calling for major repercussions here. What are we hearing from that side of the aisle? And will there actually be any consequences?
So Democrats, they are trying to push for accountability. We talked to some of the sources close to the leadership last week. They said they are in discussions right now about potentially putting forward resolutions as soon as this week to try to punish some of those members. That would include one resolution that would censure Republican Andy Ogles, one of those members that you mentioned, as well as remove him from the House Homeland Security Committee. There's also discussions about a censure resolution for Randy Fine, another one of those members. So they might try to force those to the floor. But again, without Republican support, those measures are doomed to fail. So very unlikely that any of those Republican members face any consequences for their actions, guys.
All right, Melanie Zanona there from the halls of Capitol Hill. Melanie, thank you.
For more context, we want to bring in Abed Ayoub. He is the National Executive Director of the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee. Abed, thanks for being here. What is your reaction to hearing and seeing these comments made about Muslims by our country's elected officials?
Thank you for having me on and for covering this. Look, of course, the comments it's disappointing. You would think that elected officials would have some sort of sense or some sort of maturity, but they don't. This is also a reflection of the issues the Republican Party is facing internally. Opinions are changing against them. The feel and the sympathies towards Palestine, towards Palestinians, the Arab and Muslim communities actually has very significant growth between 18 and 39-year-old Republican males. So they're losing their base. They're not passing any bills. They're not legislating. So what's left to do is they try to spew hate and bigotry in hopes of riling up the base again. But they're mistaken if they think this is 2010 and what led to the rise of the Tea Party. This is not the same America. These are not the same set of circumstances. So they're desperate. And, these words and these actions are just, desperation on their end to be relevant.
You said this is not the same America. And I love that you said that. I want to pick up there because I think about just the historical context where, you're saying they may lose this base, but sometimes this rallies up a different base, right? We saw things historically with the Southern strategy. We saw this with rhetoric against Black Americans. Americans and immigrants in general. But when it comes specifically to Muslim Americans, how do you think in this new America, as you describe, what is happening and the backlash compares to past recent incidents when you think about the Fort Hood shooting in 2009 or even further back to 9/11?
Look, the feel and the fear of backlash is real. That we live with that, and we've lived with that every day since 9/11. But what we're also living with now, and when I say a different America, is we have a lot more people who are more understanding of who Arabs are, of who Muslims are. I think the community's done a great job of putting itself out there, of speaking, of engaging, and doing our part. And I think when you take a step back and you look at all the polls, everything elected officials are looking at, you realize our community is no different than any other. In fact, we are, some say that we are more of an America first community than others, where we care about our jobs, our economy, our schools. And we are a large voting bloc, one that's, very active this midterm. And they see that. The Randy Fines of the country and the other elected officials, they're in danger of losing their positions. And this is their last grasp at trying to be relevant before they lose in November.
Abed, tell us more about the work that your organization does to combat anti-Muslim and Arab hate and your message to Muslims in America right now.
Thank you. Look, so our organization is the largest Arab American civil rights group, and we work with, Arabs of all backgrounds, Muslim, Christian, and anybody really impacted by hate. In fact, some of our clients are, Jewish students who have faced anti-Semitism at their schools. So we protect everyone against hate and bigotry. Our approach is to engage, it's to defend, and it's to promote our community in the right way. And we engage with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. So, they are learning who we are and engaging with us, and we're growing as a community. And my message to the Arab community, the Muslim community out there is that, keep doing what you're doing and keep pushing back against the hatred and bigotry, because we are winning. And we're going to see that when these guys lose this November.
And also, I think it's important to say, keep bringing these stories to light. Right. So not only our thanks to you, but also to our producer, Marcus, who, is a Muslim Arab American and helped bring some of the data to this conversation. So I think it's really important that not only we talk about this, but we elevate the voice of the people who are actually among us and create safe spaces for them as they're doing their work.
And to speak on behalf of your community members. Abed Ayoub, we appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.